From the beginning of the anime, Minato has seemed like a very flawed character, but to me, he is the most precious character in the entire series. It's clear by now that every single person in this anime is beautifully written. I've been thinking about them a lot lately, and I even read the manga to understand them better. And as I expected, all of their development is handled with so much care. I think the whole tone of this anime starts with a cold blue feeling, mostly because we're seeing it through Koyun's eyes. It perfectly highlights the anxiety Koyun has, that constant fear of not belonging anywhere, a feeling that a lot of introverts can relate to. After everything she went through in middle school, she learned that the safest way to survive is to keep people at arm's length. But the thing is, she never actually wanted to be alone. We saw it in those early moments when she's just watching other people from a distance. She's trying to smile, she's trying to be friendly, but she's just not good at it yet. She struggles to put her thoughts into words and mostly have a negative view for the people around her because of her trauma. Take her bond with Miki, for instance. They've been friends for the longest time, and I absolutely adore how they wear those matching earrings. But they don't always communicate properly and mostly don't think the same way. When Miki struggles with the popular girl mask, she tries to offer advice from her own perspective. But when Miki eventually chooses to be vulnerable instead of hiding, it actually gives her the quiet permission she needed to stop hiding herself too.
Miki, you're amazing.
And when Yota talks about his own feelings of isolation, she immediately recognizes that same shadow in him that she's been fighting for years and urges him not to go down that dark road of self-imposed loneliness. But as much as Miki and Yota help her, I feel like Minato plays an even greater role in her development. You know how they say real growth happens when you're pushed beyond your comfort zone? That's exactly what Minato does. He doesn't tear her walls down by force. He just pushes her, little by little, and soon she starts testing those boundaries, trying new things, and finally, she stops being so trapped inside her own head. She starts to get comfortable around him and see him for who he really is. Then she realizes that he's actually kind of cute.
He's adorable.
And before she knows it, she's completely fallen for him. I mean, he's the complete opposite of her so-called ex. At first, you might feel a little bad for Igarashi since it was his first love, but he wasn't a match for her at all. Unlike Minato, who notices every single detail, cares about how she feels, and makes sure to always make her feel included, Igarashi was just going with the flow. He essentially ignored her feelings and was basically in love with the idea of love. Maybe he did that without knowing, but still. Though I am glad she's overcome her fears to the point that she even confronts him and ends up not being so tense around him. So because of her friends, she develops into a truly confident person and finally stops hiding behind those ramparts of ice. But here's the twist. While Koyun is growing, Minato is progressively getting worse. At first, he had a savior complex. He would help people, not necessarily because he was an extrovert, but because he thought that was the right thing to do. But the moment Yoda and Miki tell him he's just treating people like projects, he realizes he's been doing it all wrong. He tries to be better, to earn a real connection, but the tragedy of his character is that the harder he tries, the more he overthinks. Slowly, his extroverted facade begins to break. He becomes so stuck in his own head, especially when it comes to Koyun. He constantly misunderstands her, thinking that her avoiding him means she's uncomfortable, while in reality, she's just avoiding him because she started to like him. And honestly, I don't even blame him for getting lost in his own mind. Even Tsukiko finds it hard to keep up with Koyun's reactions. And Miki was just straight up shipping her with Yota the whole time.
I approve this ship.
Another thing about him is his people-pleasing nature. He struggles to say no and constantly reads the room to act correctly, but that just makes him an easy target for manipulation, and that's exactly where Momoka steps in. She creates these misunderstandings and kind of guilt-traps him into dating her. He gives that relationship his best and tries to be the perfect partner, but he ultimately fails to let her in because he just can't get over his fear of intimacy. Deep down, being with her makes him feel like he's using her, and that burden of guilt only deepens his self-loathing. He eventually realizes the painful truth that he only reached out to lonely people in the past because he was terrified of being alone himself. The more he reflects on his own patterns, the more he starts to hate himself. He basically chains himself up, locks all the doors, and gets lost in a spiral of his own thoughts. And usually, he's the one who gets dumped in a relationship. But this time, because he refuses to keep using Momoka, he's the one who ends it. Before the breakup, he gets sick, misses school, and even got prescribed psychiatric medication for his stress, all right around his birthday. He's a shell of a person, completely trapped in his own head. At that point, even basic socializing feels like too much and everything just feels miserable. That is, until Koyun arrives with an early birthday gift. The second he sees her, he finally breaks down and starts crying. The roles literally switch. In the beginning, he was the one opening locks for other people, and now Koyun finally opens the lock for him. She tells him that she's felt the exact same way and that she's on his side, that he can talk to her about his feelings whenever he's ready. Shortly after, his other friends surprise him by decorating his locker, and he breaks down again. It's like all those negative thoughts he was trapped in finally start to fade, and for the first time, things actually feel okay. A few chapters later, they go on a school trip, and Koyun is the one who initiates the conversation. They both confess they like each other at the same time. Obviously, there were plenty of misunderstandings, miscommunications, and flustered glances along the way. Everyone around them knew exactly how they felt, and honestly, so did they. But they kept it to themselves because they were terrified of ruining the friendship or hurting the other person. It's not just them, though. Miki and Yota were scared of the same thing. It was thoughtful, but it was also pretty painful. So we see Miki's growth happens a bit earlier in the story when she finally drops the idol act. The only thing that lingers is her guilt. She carries a heavy weight because she was the one who pushed Koyun into that middle school relationship with Igarashi. She thought she was helping, but she ended up being the reason her best friend got hurt. Now she's terrified of making that same mistake again. That's probably why she was so suspicious of Minato at the start, and why she was overthinking about Yota's feelings. She has always prioritized friendship over romance because she believes friendships are meant to last, while relationships can tear people apart. So when she finally catches on that Yota likes her, she panics. She starts overthinking everything, questioning every memory. If he's liked her for all this time, was all of his kindness, support, and love just because he saw her as a love interest? She starts rethinking all the fun times they've had, doubting if it was ever really about their friendship. But then there's Yota. He's been in love with Miki since middle school.
Keep me safe!
Okay.
He's the kind of guy who truly loves every shade of her. He acts as the group's mediator, but he keeps his own feelings locked away. Even when he's struggling with his family or his own loneliness, he just smiles like it's nothing. For the longest time, he never said a word. He didn't want to confess, convinced that doing so would be greedy and would only destroy the bond they had. But eventually, his feelings grew too heavy to hide. He finally let his true emotions slip through, and because Miki was so overwhelmed, she started panicking and avoiding him. That's when he realized he had to tell her how he feels. I'll be honest, it's not a fairy tale. She rejects him because she's so confused about her own heart, but he already knew this would be the outcome. After the rejection, there's this scene where he's sitting with Koyun. She thinks he's crying, but he's not. He tells her he's alright because at least he finally told her how he felt. His love is literally so pure. It's not loud or dramatic, it's just steady. He doesn't want anything in return. He's just happy being by her side. And the best part, even after the rejection, he treats her exactly the same. He makes it easy for her to stay in his life. And eventually, by chapter 104, Miki finally begins to see him as a love interest. It takes some heartbreak, but they get to where they need to be. When you look at the series as a whole, it's clear why so many people are emotionally invested. There were moments where I wanted to yell at the screen, but I take that as a sign of truly good writing. And I think the beauty of this story lies in its patience. It doesn't rush the healing process, it lets the characters make mistakes, it lets them hurt each other, and it lets them be wrong, but it also lets them grow. It shows us that you can be broken, you can have a past that haunts you, and you can still find someone who sees you for who you are and chooses to stay. Now, I have so many more scenes, relationships, and character developments I want to talk about, especially when it comes to Momoka. But the video is already getting long, so I'll leave it here for now. Alright, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening to me. Take care of yourself and goodbye.
Maybe we could be okay, maybe you could be the change.